Welcome to the Reality After Show covering the Challenge USA Season 2, Episode 14, the finale, The Pursuit of Glory. And I am here. I am Alex Trias alongside my ride or die as we are about to go on this venture to battle for a new champion. It's Dan Montchal. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I really enjoyed the season the whole way through until last night.
I'm a little surprised by that.
It had nothing to do with the winners. I just thought it was, and I don't know if maybe some of it was time constraints. They needed to get it all in the 42 minutes where you saw they were definitely they were pressed for time, I should say. But I just thought that some of the setups that we'll get into, you never heard TJ say that this was his final. That's all I'll say.
Well, we heard him say it in the penultimate episode. That was you punched a ticket to run my final.
It was day one. I didn't like day one.
I get it. I get it because it wasn't racing, doing tasks, racing to get the points. I didn't mind it, to be honest. Like I didn't mind the first day being a bunch of just tasks for you to do to try to potentially get yourself minute advantages, and that's how you got the minute advantages. Obviously, also we know there's a lot of other things that happened throughout the final, especially overnight, that wasn't covered on the show because it obviously ended up not being relevant. But for what we got, I felt it made it helped you clearly understand what was going on the entire time as the viewer. You understood how people were in the positions that they were going into day two. And day two, we have to give it to them. They did 10 miles. They did another few tasks. I guess technically they were optional, but everyone did them except for Michaela, and that bit her in the ass. But really, I have no complaints. Shockingly.
Yeah. No, I guess I would like to know what all we didn't see, because we know in these finals we never see all the legs, and the only one that I have seen is that there were pictures released of the overnight portion that you could see all of them standing on like a log. I would also be curious to know, was there anything else from day one that was cut out? Because you could tell me that there could have been a full day worth of activities that ultimately didn't really matter, but that you could see they just didn't have time for it. That was the other thing, was the pace of the final I thought was a bit weird, because you had some of the paces of being like, okay, we're taking a lot of time on some of the stuff for day one, and then we were just breezing by the end of everyone crossing the finish line.
Yeah, you can definitely make that case there. We'll never know. Besides whatever like Bananas says on his podcast or Tori says on the MTV podcast for the challenge. I'm not going to say official because we are the official challenge podcast.
We are the official challenge podcast, and I had a laugh that there was a note that came out being like, I guess for season 39, and it isn't because, she's not coming back, but Tori isn't going to be on it. I was like, is that just because she doesn't want to talk about a show that she's not on? Because that's how it's coming across.
I mean, she covered, I'm pretty sure she covered like the All-Star season or one of the seasons that she wasn't on. But yeah, that is a little funny. That is a little funny. But hey, get your break. You don't need to be podcasting all about it. Like, there's other ways to do your pre-games. There's a lot more vacations you can do.
Of course, she's got to get all the vacations, and, of course, biased. I've never listened to it a ton, but for their podcast, which, having Devin be more the focal point is the right call.
For sure. But also, maybe she's spending all this time now working on her axe throws, because that's ultimately what does her in.
So we can, as we're getting into it, but that's almost where I kind of like to start, is what the hell happened to Tori in this final? Like, because for someone that's so strong, that's supposed to be so well at all this, sure, she had the few legs where she made up some of the time on the tasks, but that first one coming right out of the gate, She absolutely shits the bed.
I think ultimately she just picked the wrong strategy. So let's get into it. So we start the episode, and you automatically get Desi's winner quote where she was like, it took me 2 times to win. What was it, Miss Virginia?
Yeah.
So maybe it's meant to be that I'm supposed to win the second season of Challenge USA. She does. So we're told immediately that there's 4 traits that you're going to be going through, 4 trials. So you got strength, smart, skill, and a steel stomach, which you really should have just said, and a puke bucket. Really. But each of like we were just saying, each trial, if you come in first, you can get a 1 minute advantage. If you come in last, you get a 1 minute disadvantage for the running portion of the beginning of day 2. Which glad we have that again, where day 2 is you're going up the mountain doing a bunch of stupid tests. We're back at that. That's great.
It's how every final should end, minus my complaints in the beginning for some of the stuff for day 1. That is always what day 2 should be.
Day 2 was great.
So there's never any question of, oh, was the timing really accurate? Yada, yada, yada. I want to see first one to cross that finish line, for both male and female. Boom, they're the winners. I think that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah. But the gambler that you are, Dan, must have loved the extra bit of incentive in this, where at any point during these trials, you could have the opportunity to double down and take a risk. And if you win, when you double down, you'll get a 2 minute advantage. But if you come in last, you'll get a 2 minute disadvantage heading into the second day.
I did like that part of it. And maybe that is just the gambler in me, but I do enjoy that they were given, and not to do it everyone, but you could kind of pick your shot, that they knew what the options were to begin with. They obviously didn't know what the tasks were, but they knew what the categories were. So at that point, pick the one that you think you're going to be able to do the best. And I like that. The only thing that I thought was a little weird is I thought that now you see Corey right off the bat, he uses it, doesn't get it, and gets that 2 minute disadvantage. I thought that there still should have been that if you're calling your shot, and not that you get minus 2 minutes if you don't win, but I feel like if you don't come in 1 or number 2, you still should have had a minute taken off of your time. My only tweak I would have made, but if you're so confident in this, you need to finish close.
Right. I understand why they didn't. I agree, though. I feel like if you made the bet that you would win, not that you wouldn't come in last, you made the bet that you would win. So there should be more at stake for you other than, well, I don't want to be last. But yeah, so we're getting ready for strength portion. We hear from Chris once again talking about how he is the most disrespected challenge or Survivor winner of all time. After we also heard Michelle say that a few weeks ago as well. Apparently, us Survivor fans, we just hate on all the winners. That seems to be what happens now.
Gabler wasn't out there. Come on.
I did see that on social media. Everyone's like, anyone who keeps saying that Gabler exists. I understand it for Chris, though. I understand for Chris. Played a third of the season. Half of what would be the current day of Survivor. But a third when he played it. But I'm glad that he won. Now that can never be the narrative again. That can never be the narrative. If he comes back for season 3, I do not need to hear I was the most disrespected Survivor winner of all time, discredited, whatever. You're now a challenge champion, buddy. Congrats. We're happy for you.
We are happy for Chris. I'm happy for him. The only thing with him that got to be a little bit of draining towards the end of the season, and it wasn't even him keep going on about being, the most disrespected winner. It was the fact of his constant just kind of cry that he was always on the bottom. And it was just like, yes, you were. And I give him all the kudos in the world from working back from that. But hey, man, your social game was so sloppy in those middle episodes. There was a reason you were on the bottom. It wasn't just they were like, fuck this guy, like he's on the bottom. He helped put himself there. And like I said,
absolutely.
all the credit in the world from working his way back from it. But there was a reason.
There was a reason why you were in the position that you were. But hey, was that your motivation? Love it. But yeah, so he has motivation. He wants to crush the guys. He doesn't just want to beat them. I guess in a sense you would say that he crushed them ultimately by winning, but like during day one, you couldn't really say like, oh, he really took it by the horns, really went at it. No, he got like second to last in, I'm pretty sure, like 3 of the 4 portions.
Yeah, oddly enough, it was the old man Bananas that, if you were going to say what's a day winner from the guys, I mean, he had the biggest advantage going into the final.
Yeah. Of all things, from spelling, from Mr. Dutch himself.
I did not
Thankfully, they
see
didn't
that
have
one
to spell
coming.
anything in Australian's native language.
That would be a tough one.
That would be a tough one. I don't know Dutch. Okay, so we then also get Chanel pointing out how her, Michaela, and Desi come in. They were day one alliance. They get to the end. What they just want to make sure one of them wins and not Tori. Obviously, they want to be the winner themselves, but they're happy of what they've made and what them doing what they did to get to where they are now, and how that can be reflected towards little girls that can look up to them as like role models, essentially.
No, it was a really good story, and I enjoyed them throughout the season. Probably a little bit more. We didn't see them as much. Like, they were all present in the episodes, but you had the few predominant Desi episodes kind of early on in the season, and then you had kind of more Michaela going down the stretch. But it was a really good story. It's something that I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to see. I would love to see the 3 of them come back to see if it's still, hey, it's us getting to the end no matter what, or once you get a few more seasons under their belt, if it's just, hey, I got to put myself in a chance to win this. What's best for me?
Right. But we start off with strength. And for the strength trial, you are dragging a sled up a hill with 4 heavy boxes that you have to load onto that sled and bring up to the top of the hill. Whoever does it the fastest, it gets all 4 up there, and it gets apparently flip your sled when you're done. Wins. It's a requirement. You have to flip the sled. And only person who immediately jumps to take the risk and double down is Corey. Mr. as we used to call him back in the day, Mr. Popcorn Muscles himself.
Until Derrick Henry came along.
Derrick Henry came along.
But yeah, I actually thought it was I was surprised Fessy didn't do it as well. Sorry, Fessel. But I thought if there was one where Corey was going to double down. Now, unfortunately, get into something, he didn't have the right strategy. It was a lot harder than he thought. This would be the one, looking at the categories, that you'd think Corey needs to win this one.
Well, I understand why Fessel wouldn't do it, because like the big part of this was that the boxes were proportionate to your body weight. It wasn't equal across the board. So I think Fessel's looking at something like, well, in total, I will have to lug like 880 pounds approximately up this, whereas Bananas only has to do like overall like almost somewhere between 160 to 200 pounds less. Like, yes, you're still carrying your body weight, but there's a difference, I think, in if you're lighter weight but strong, like that's easy. But like the heavier that you are, even when you're fit, like it's still it's more daunting overall. A number is still a number at the end of the day.
Of course.
But we see what Chris ends up doing is he wanted to pull, instead of just doing one at a time, lugging back and forth, or trying to do all 4, he says like, I want to do 1 and 2, bring them up, get back down, do 3 and 4, bring them back up. And ultimately we see that works for him. Whereas other people were at first trying to load more and more of those boxes, like Bananas, I think, was trying to put the 3rd on, and it just wasn't working. So Chris ends up winning for the guys. Um, and then Michaela wins for the girls, and you see Michaela go like, I should have doubled down. I should have doubled down on this. This would have been great for me.
Well, you were mentioning about like Fessel being how much weight it is. This honestly was, and maybe she didn't know she was saving it or whatever, the perfect kind of competition for Michaela to double down because she's obviously very strong, but she's got that lean like weight that you'd think, okay, it's less that she'd be able to house that as quick
Yeah,
as
and as
quick
Chanel
she did.
says, she has perfectly made glutes.
If it's not perfect, it's damn close.
Yeah. So we have that, and ultimately we see it's a nail biter between Corey and Fessel for who will be last. Corey ends up being last overall. So not a great start. He gets a 2-minute penalty, and we see Tori in last for the girls. Which like did surprise me a little bit, but I was like, all the girls are strong here. It really just depended how you started out with the strength portion. So it wasn't like a huge surprise to me, you know?
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit more shocked, especially because that was kind of her storyline through most of the season of how strong she is, and other females in the house don't want to go against her because she's so strong. And then finally there's a strength challenge, and it's just like, uh-oh, this one might not go well for Tori.
Well, and that's the issue of her aligning with the other strong women out of fear that they would target her. Is you still have to compete against them at the end, and you can be as confident as you are. Like you do have the challenge champion label on you, but you're still facing off against 3 beasts, and like doesn't matter how strong you are if you don't start right.
Yeah, and I guess it is true because we have seen her in some of the finals struggle in the past. There's been others that she's done really well, but ultimately, I mean, you look at Ride or Dies where she did win. She was going against towards the end Anissa and Nani, which is way different than Chanel, Michaela, and Desi.
You are not giving the full picture there. Anissa would have won if it wasn't for Jordan making her roll her ankle right out the gate.
Yeah, that's true. It's Jordan's
Jordan would have
fault.
obviously won.
And it was Jordan's fault for not better teaching her how to get those white blood cells down to her ankle. I mean, had he been able to teach her that,
it would have been all over.
It would have
been all over for everyone. Would have just had to quit. I had to. Anyway,
you thought we weren't getting Anissa references. Come on now.
Yeah, y'all thought I actually turned a new leaf. Jokes on you. Next trial is Smarts, and Smarts is essentially just you're going to spell words. Have fun with this. And Chris doubles down, and Desi doubles down. Even though she wants to make it very known she doesn't like to take risks, and I'm like, no kidding. I watched your game this season. You do not like to take risks.
That checks. Definitely checks.
Hey, it worked out for her. But Chris thinks he has an edge for this spelling spelling portion because he once competed in the spelling bee and got second place in middle school.
To be fair, that's probably better than any of the other 3 did. I don't think they ever competed in a spelling bee, so sure, we'll say small advantage.
Well, we hear Corey's response to this portion. He's just like, what are we doing here? Autocorrect is a thing. And I'm like, oh boy, Corey, this season was supposed to be made for you, and you're just like collapsing because he gets last again.
How is he supposed to know that? Yeah, how is he supposed to know that schmoozing was going to be a word?
Or veganazzi, venagazzi. It's Italian. But him and Tori get last. Tori gets last for like little stupid things, like not
she
having
didn't put an S on alliances.
And she flipped the I and E in deceitful. And she even says at the end, it's like, I remember the rule, the grammar rule, I before E except after C. Sorry, Tori. Sorry. You're going to have to make it up somewhere. And she does. But yeah, we get alliances, schmoozing, deceitful, vengeance, and ascending. And Desi wins, gets her 2+ advantage there. And Bananas wins for the guys and gets all 5 right. What growth?
Yeah.
What growth for this old man?
He's, we've seen it over the past few seasons. There was like, Nelson with getting kind of a trivia one. We saw even Derek get it in All Stars. That, some growth from some of these oh so lovable dummies.
Sometimes you just have to be good at stupid shit.
Yeah. Stupid shit
athletic.
Apparently really pays off.
Apparently spelling stupid shit.
I guess
but yeah,
so.
So they do that. We move over to skills, and the skills was like right behind the spelling portion. It was just you're doing a puzzle. You have 2 different type of colors, but you can't have 4 the same color in a row. And that was as a row, a column, or diagonally. Could not have 4 the same color touching, or you would have to start over. Once you complete it, whoever finishes first gets the advantage. Whoever doesn't or gets in last gets the penalty. Tori, Bananas, and Michaela all double down here because they all know the next round is Steel Stomach, and they're like, well, might as well try here. And it pays off for Tori. Tori gets it, and Fessel once again showing that he isn't just there for the physical comps. He does very well on the puzzle, gets the advantage there. And Desi and, you guessed it, Corey come in last.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I mean, props to Fessel for finally, he should get to kind of highlight of being like, hey, I'm not just good at this physical stuff. No one told him reading was going to be involved in the final, so that's completely different. But he is pretty well-rounded. He just has a few glaring mistakes.
Yeah. So this is where we start seeing Corey break down. Just like it's the 3rd consecutive loss in a row that we see. Obviously, other stuff could have happened in between. And he's just trying to figure out was this all pointless? Obviously I'm not going to quit, but did I already lose because of just being so behind the 8 ball? Essentially, yeah.
It is why he lost.
If he doesn't have a 5-minute penalty going into day 2, does he beat Chris? If it's more of an even leg there, because they both do well on both. Really, whoever was going to get to the ATV first was going to win.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and you see, because that's where it would have been interesting to see the times, because Chris started 1 minute ahead. Corey had the 5-minute penalty. So Chris did have a 6-minute, lead going into that final. So I would be curious to see how far behind did Corey finish. Would he have been able to make up the time, or did Chris finish, 10, 15 minutes ahead?
Right. Who's to say? Not me. I will not. But we get to the Steel Stomach, and it's a 4-course meal, starting with a stinky tofu sauerkraut smoothie, then a slimy neem and chia stack with mealworms and cricket drizzle, a wasabi cracker stack, and loaded chili truffles. And what are truffles, Dan?
What was Banana's answer? Something like shit?
No, they're a fungus.
Fungus. That's
Which is
what
not
it was,
wrong.
yeah.
It is a fungus.
Yeah. That
I like that.
True.
That's the words he used for it, because I feel like he's just he's just I'm over this. Fessel, you're an idiot. It's a truffle. It's a fungus. But also saying a fungus, there's that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I feel.
Absolutely. And this is one where you can see it was one of the challenges that it did pay advantage to people that have been on the show before, because if you've never eaten nasty shit, I can only imagine you're just not going to be as good.
Well, the issue is for Michaela is she doesn't have a gas station palate. She's a high society lady.
Which is apparently way different than Tori's palate. Of what, cheese and ketchup?
Oh my god.
which sounds that I would almost rather eat some of the things on that table than a lot of
And
cheese and ketchup together.
you know it was a Kraft singles.
Oh, 100%. It
Like
was maybe,
the type of single slice cheese that you can almost see that there's still plastic around it.
yeah, I don't even think that it's the Kraft singles. I think it's the knockoff version, like that you get from
Oh
Aldi's or
god.
something.
Oh, it probably wasn't even Heinz ketchup.
Oh no, that has Hunt's or like Fancy Pants ketchup written all over it.
I don't even know what those are. I don't know
Uh,
the off-brand ketchup.
Hunt's is somewhat like it's well known. Fancy Pants, the only reason I remember was looking at it at the cafeteria in high school, being like, what the hell is Fancy Pants ketchup?
See, I would like to envision that it's ketchup that they put in the fridge that was from like if you went to like McDonald's or something and you put it in the little like in the little dipper for them
Okay.
and you just put that in and you just brought the cheese out and then you just put it on, you spread it out.
That sounds so
Tori will
gross.
have to answer this. I'm so curious. One, why, and two, why?
More importantly, she thought that that was
Not
normal
really
growing up.
for her dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for her dad. But like, did she never have friends over or go over to friends' places and being like, Tori, what the hell is this?
Yeah. She gets to a friend's house and the mom goes like, "Oh, I can get some snacks out. What would you like?" And Tori just goes, "Yeah, if you could just get me the usual." And they come out with the regular stuff. She's like, "This isn't the usual. What do you like that?" My dad gets me American cheese slices with ketchup.
I mean, I guess it's technically better than just like doing some type of concoction between like the cheese whiz and the can and the ketchup, but whew,
Mm-hmm. But
it's a rough one.
honestly, some of this stuff, I'm like the tofu sauerkrauts movie. Like, I'm not a fan of sauerkraut, but I'm like, tofu has no taste. And if it's a smoothie, it's just blended out nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely dialed way back from what it was. I'm thinking of like the Rivals 2 challenge where it was that
Bull
nasty,
testicles.
yeah, and like the poop juice that they had to drink and everything. Like it's it's definitely more let's say humane.
Oh, I think that was Rivals three, where they ate like every single part of like a cow or whatever.
Yeah.
It
I
was
know
like
which one you're
cow
talking
brain,
about.
cow intestine, cow liver, cow testicles, or bull testicles. It was just like, yeah, it's different. It's different. And you know what? Whatever. That's fine. But Johnny says what's very true and what people don't understand is don't eat the dry stuff first. It will send you back. Like the wasabi crackers, yeah, don't eat those first. And then we immediately see Chanel eating those first. Um, yeah, no.
Which you'd
Eat,
think is
eat.
pretty understandable because he even kind of breaks it down, being like, at most point, like you'd imagine someone's eating a bunch of crackers in a row. Like it takes everything out of it. But hey, maybe that's just, the vets that have done this type of thing before, knowing, hey, what's the quickest way to get this down? Or sorry, easiest way to get this down.
Yeah, but Bananas figures it out, gets the win. And then Tori also gets it. So, like you said, experience mattered here. Ultimately, when you vomited enough times, you suddenly learn how to eat all this shit. And Fessel gets second. Growth for Fessel.
He can eat. It's a
He can
miracle.
eat. One last thing off the list.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
We'll get to more of him. Go ahead.
But yeah, so ultimately they win. Corey and Chanel get last. They sleep for the night. Obviously, we missed all of the night portion, but we once again get Chanel talking about somehow we let three vets get to the end. I'm like, well, Corey did the worst of everybody so far, so that's not a horrible thing. Tori's even with all of you, except Chanel. who has the 1 minute penalty.
Mhm.
Bananas has a 2 minute penalty. So you can make the case there. Like, yeah, why did we let Bananas get to the end? He has a slight advantage going into the last day. Everyone else has a 1 minute advantage, and then Corey has -5 minutes before he can start.
I just really hope that his daughters didn't look at him and call him a loser, because he was really worried about that.
I wish they would. Not to hurt his ego, but just like for the laugh of
Yeah.
it, because I feel like he would laugh at them, like
Now,
watching
yeah.
you back and be like, Dad, you're a loser.
No, that would be pretty good. But yeah, it was a rough one. And you could just tell from the beginning how the first challenge started. You were just like, oh, this isn't Corey's. This is not Corey's final.
No, at least not day one. A different story for day two, obviously. Let's see. I'm going down. So Bananas is feeling confident because like sometimes I've been labeled as someone who's good with stupid shit. So if this is what's going to keep going on, I like my chances to win. Unfortunately, this is the best part of your game in the final, Bananas.
There was one other stupid shit that you weren't quite good at that really is going to come back to bite you.
Nope. It obviously just means he doesn't scale his food like Corey.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but okay, so we start with day two, and day two is a 10-mile run up a mountain. There's going to be 3 risk stations. The third risk station's mandatory no matter what. But the first and second risk stations you don't have to do. You can keep running, but they do have the opportunity to give you an advantage if you do stop and compete. The other risk you have is if you're the last man and last woman to get to the second risk station, you are automatically out and you don't get to keep running TJ's final, CBS's final.
Yeah, which I was okay with that because, like I said, we were obviously so pressed for time. They've been on a kick, especially with 4 or 5 people. Like, let's not let all of them compete. And I think that's a good way to keep going so that you don't need to actually stop and have an elimination. I thought it was completely fair. I didn't think all of the checkpoints were necessarily fair, but that's a different story.
Well, we can't really talk about fair and the challenge. Not because all is fair in Love War.
All
and the
is
challenge.
Fair. One was just significantly more beneficial than the other.
Oh, I agree. 100%. Whoever got to the ATV first was most likely going to be the person that won. Like we see it here, it is who wins. But like, say Chris didn't get it right and Bananas got it right. Bananas is winning the final. Like,
agreed.
It was whoever was going to get onto that ATV first. End of the day. Yeah. So we started all out. Like, really, the advantage of the running doesn't mean much for the guys because Vessel and Chris catch up to Bananas pretty quickly. Like, in reality, he only had a 1 minute advantage over them, and it's a marathon. He's not going to be sprinting up this mountain. And there's a lot of bad terrain, a lot of different type of terrain. Like, this is more of a 10-mile hike than a 10-mile race.
Yeah.
So that's another issue that you're going to face, which once again, that ATV is so beneficial.
Yeah, because you can't flat out run. Yeah, you can't flat out run because it's so, like you were mentioned, and we saw, it's so uneven that sure, you can do like a jog with it. But if you run, you're going to pull in a Nisa and twist your ankle and lose the final.
But it's Jordan's fault.
Well, it's always Jordan's fault, clearly.
Even if he's not there, it's Jordan's fault.
Absolutely. It's...
Go
ahead.
I see this one person comment. I'm not bringing it up, but he's commenting about how they made the final easy so that the CBS people wouldn't quit. I don't know. It's I think they made it easy by just not doing it somewhere where there would be snow and freezing temperatures for them.
And we got rid of Sudoku.
Yeah, we got rid of Sudoku. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, and it even would have been, because we never really got the clear answer from USA 1, was were you able to time out of the Sudoku puzzle? Because we were able to time
Sarah,
out. Well, she was the last one left, so she got production help.
Yes. So if you were Sarah Lucina and the last person left, you got advantages and didn't have to actually do either of the puzzles to win. But I don't care. I want to make sure there's 2 winners. You don't need people quitting. Like we hear it enough on Survivor right now. It's not the first time we've had multiple quits in this season, but goddamn, it feels like it the way people are talking about it.
Someone quit on Wednesday. Missed that.
Yeah. Oh no. Technically, he got voted out, but he calls it a quit even. But he regrets it. It's okay. But okay, so we get to Risk Station 1, and Risk Station 1 is axe throwing. Very simple. You have 5 attempts, hit an axe, get it to stick on the platform. If you do that, you take your heavy rock and you get to run the shortcut, which saves you, I think they say about 1.2 miles.
Yeah, 1.2.
If you don't, you have to run the regular route. Everybody does get this except for Fessel and Tori. The one glaring difference, though, is either Fessel believed he got it on the last one and production didn't say anything, or he knew he missed that last one and just didn't read the sign and took the shortcut, which once you pass bananas, you should have been like, oh,
this isn't right. I think he knew he got it, because I forget exactly what he said as he was going to start the run, but he made a small comment that made me think, okay, he knew he didn't get it and was like, oh, is the longer trail like this way? And then he still turned towards the shorter one. So I think it was just a mental error on his part. Yeah.
Which
but it's not his fault. He's not good at stupid shit like axe throwing. If he was good at stupid shit, it just wouldn't be fair to everyone else in the challenge, because he's a god.
Honestly, it would have been funny if this person said, if they doled his axes so that they couldn't actually stick. Even if that happened, he still would have been Corey there if he had ran the long way. Like Corey would have been the one eliminated. Just 5-minute disadvantages. It's a lot. Well, it's 7 compared to Bananas, 6 to the other guys.
Yeah, and you think, because it isn't like I'm an axe throwing kind of sore over here. I've done it once or twice, but it is something that you can be, pretty good with it. But depending upon your rotation, that there was no reason for everyone not to try it, because you'd think that given 5, you're going to get it. But sometimes you're just going to get a little unlucky with how it's hitting, like its rotation as it's getting to the target. And so I would like to think that he just got unlucky, but it's perfect for Fessy just because he's not good at dumb shit. It's just a god amongst men.
No. But I was like, before I saw what the risk station was, I was like, part of me was thinking, I feel like depending on what the advantage is, I may just keep running, and because I don't know how long it would take. How long are you staying there? And if you just keep running to get to the second station, do the second one, depending what the advantage is, because you can at least ensure you're going to be allowed to finish the final, unless you are medically removed from it. Because that was my big thing. I was like, it's not even a race to the third risk station. It's a race to get to the second one so you don't get cut. So I was like, part of me was a little surprised everyone stopped, but then when I saw it was axe throwing, I'm like, well, it doesn't really take that long in the grand scheme of things, especially if you can get it right, right off the bat. It's very quick and you just boom and you keep going.
Especially because you didn't need to hit dead center of the target or anywhere on it. You just needed that thing to stick somewhere there. So, that's also completely different than the accuracy behind it as well.
Yeah, so like we said, Fessel messes up, but the overall Chris gets to the second risk station first. And this one is you have a scale that on one end already has an accumulation of heavy rocks in it. You have one attempt to use the other rocks that are available to counterbalance the balance, pull the lever, and if the balance stays perfectly balanced, you get to take an ATV. I believe it was like for a mile or just over a mile
It
to
was
a
for the
point,
next
and then you
mile.
get to keep going to the third risk station. Uh, yeah.
And I would say, here we go, Alex. We were talking about this before we started. I think we both had the same issue with this particular one, but why don't you
Well,
go for it?
the main issue, and I think the issue that we both agree with is you allowed one like specific station to ultimately determine who will win the season, who will win the final. All the
It
other
was
stuff in the grand scheme meant nothing. Because, like, worst case, you lose a few minutes or a handful of minutes, depending on like how far you have to run. You're giving people a rest and a lot of time in between them and the next person if they miss.
it was too big of an advantage. It was way too big of an because, like you said, it was whoever got there first in the ATV first was going to end up winning the final, because at that point you're a little over halfway through the final. I'm sure everyone's exhausted from everything the day before, plus everything they've done up to that point. And then, yeah, it's the fact, it's not that, oh, okay, I get to take a shortcut like on one and cut a little bit of time off. It's that I get to blow past everyone, and I get, because you think even with an ATV, you can't fly that fast, but it's still a 5 to 10 minute rest, which is huge.
Yeah. Well, I would hope
And
not
then,
5 to 10 minutes because like
well,
a mile
sorry,
ain't
three. We'll
that
say
long.
three. But I was going to
Like,
say the other thing that we were talking about prior, which I'll let you go talking upon, is what does balance mean? What does balance mean to you?
so balance to me means like what Desi and Corey ended up doing, where when they pulled that lever and you had zero movement, even if you had like a little teeter totter, they both ended up perfectly straight, perfectly aligned, balanced. We never saw the front of it. Like, I don't know if there was like a meter there. Like, like sometimes a balance has like a little like red like strip, and it'd be like you would still be considered balanced as long as you're within that, like, I forget what the mathematical term is for this, but like there's like a gap in between like what's perfect, a standard deviation. That's the phrase.
Mm.
See, I'm smart. I could do the smarts task
You can
for
spell.
these trials, but you have standard deviations that would, I think, you could still consider it, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe what, because we see with Chris and Chanel when they pulled their levers, you do have some movement where it teeters. Chanel's a little more than Chris, but they say to both of them, "No, you're good. You're balanced. You get to use the ATV. Go, go, go." And I just felt, for me, I'm like, my opinion would be that's not balanced. That obviously
No,
shows there's different weight. Obviously, Bananas does it the worst, and his hit the ground. Like, obviously, you fucked yourself there, bud. But
no, there should have been some type of lines on the front side of the balance, like in that center post, that it isn't just that it couldn't hit the ground like Bananas, but it needed to be close. Like, I wouldn't expect anyone, to be perfect like Desi's and Corey's was, but hey, you only have a small sliver of wiggle room that even if it's going like Chanel's, I don't think it should have counted.
that was my thing. The other issue I have is them only having two scales, and one specifically for the guys, one specifically for the girls. Because sure, you could say you're giving them the advantage of getting there first, so they get to work on it before the other people that they are individually competing with. Okay, you can get me there, and I will go past this. But it felt like that ultimately made the decision that cost Michaela her chance of even being able to win.
Especially because it wasn't, and I forget which one of them like would have crossed into the clearing to like kind of get to that checkpoint 2 first. But it should have at least been, if you were going to do it that way, based upon who got there first, not who went to grab their rocks first.
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt weird. Like, I get them like using each other to motivate each other to keep going to get to that second point, but then Desi just being like, well, I'm grabbing the rock first, so I get to go. And then that ultimately makes Michaela go like, well, okay, well, hopefully she's wrong, and I'll just start running now. Instead of waiting to then also try to do this, because if I'm wrong, then Desi still has a lead over me.
Mhm.
But that ultimately goes to bite her at the end because she had to exert more energy, and that energy ends up depleting what she had left to be able to finish.
Yeah. No, it was, I just, maybe there was more of a clarification there, but it just seemed like that it could have been made a little bit more clear, because maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Michaela was just a few steps ahead of Desi. Like I said, I could be wrong. I wasn't looking at it all that close, but it seemed like she would have the option to get there first, to use the scale first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ultimately, this ends up being what costs Michaela and Bananas to win because they both get it wrong.
I did enjoy the fact that by the time that Tori and Fessel were coming, TJ didn't even stick around. There was just a little like note board being like, "Yeah, you're out."
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You came in last. And also, I wonder if they had to have like a production member at like a specific point for Fessel because he didn't use the right path. Like, he was the second guy up there, but because he didn't use the right path, TJ essentially said, like, you have to run a half mile back and then come back. So I don't know if they had a specific marker or someone on standby to be like, as soon as Fessel got to a certain point, be like, oh, yeah, you can turn around.
I would think that would have to work because, and so I was just looking at based upon, the digital map that they put up on the screen, but it looked like there were some markers there. Who knows if they were actually there out on the course, but I'd have to think that that was production. Someone saying like, okay, Fessel, you can turn around and go back now.
Mm-hmm. We have a question going. Do you think Bananas wins if he gets the balance right? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I'm of the mind that given how these people compete and what we are able to see, what we're able to see is Rift Station 3 is piling a bunch of cinder blocks in order of elimination. And to what we saw, no one got it wrong. Like, everyone got it right, or they just decided we didn't have time to have to show people making mistakes. So if Bananas gets it, because Banana gets there slightly after Chris gets his balance right.
I'd say roughly
So
2 to 3 minutes ish.
yeah, so I would
He was fine.
believe you then have an extra couple minutes though for them to have to remove the rocks or reset something before allowing Bananas to then go and try it himself, since
That's
they
true.
only had one balance for the guy. So then you add that, then whatever amount of time it takes for Bananas to figure it out. And if you were to get it right, maybe they're within a few minutes of each other ultimately once they get there. Um, I think truly it will just matter to your grit at the end, and we do know, like, historically Bananas does well on this type of day 2 of a final. Age or
Mhm.
no age, like, he understands the method of this. So it could have been neck and neck, or Chris still wins. It's really hard for us to truly say, but I essentially skipped ahead. Uh, risk 3, you were putting in order of everyone that competed on the season by how they were eliminated, and as soon as you got that right, you got to start the trek up the summit to get your prize money from TJ.
So we've seen this a few different times of, some type of stacking challenge in the final of everyone that has been eliminated. Now, unless, like you said, for this one, you just didn't. I don't think if someone got it wrong, I don't think you had the time to say, oh, it was wrong, like try again. I think you were just seeing everyone getting it right. But we've also seen it in the past. Remove this checkpoint from finals. From what we've seen, no one ever gets this wrong. I'm sure they're talking. Everyone has a pretty good pulse. And if maybe it's more about, okay, you need to move these cinder blocks from point A to point B. This just kind of seemed like a pointless checkpoint for me.
I think that's more what it was. It's the time that it takes for you to move these cinder blocks over. And if you were to get it wrong, that's a lot of time in readjusting everything because you can only move things one at a time. So yeah, I would say move this to a day one of a final. It's not really needed for day two. Or if you want to use it in day two, use it as like the first checkpoint if you're doing mandatory checkpoints, and then keep it moving. Like anything's better than season 38's final, which is just horrible. Made no sense. Like it literally made no sense at all.
And it's something that it also giving them the benefit of the doubt. They could have put in there knowing, hey, we only have the time slots with CBS to make this an hour final, which means it's 42 minutes. So these checkpoints that we're doing, especially because we're doing everything day one, they can't be that complicated or that involved because we just don't have the time to actually show how it would play out. So it could be as simple as that too.
Yeah. But yeah, so ultimately, in the order of how they get there, Michaela gets medical assistance and is essentially told that she's not allowed to continue. She was lightheaded, she was cramping up. It seemed like her body was starting to just like shut down on her. So we could sort of talk backwards here from them to the winners. So Michaela's tail of the tape, beast of a season for her. She dominated. She had 100% redemption from her time of I keep wanting to say Ride or Dies, but it's Spies, Lies, and Allies. Too many eyes in there. Yeah. Spies, Lies, and Allies. First boot to being 6th place overall, if you would combine everything. 3rd place among the women on this season, where the talent was stacked. I think she leaves this season head held high. Like she did what she came here to do, other than get that title of challenge champion and $250,000.
I think it's not only that she had a hell of a season competing and physically. I think it's that she also was involved in some drama. Though ultimately she didn't make the big move. You could see her keep contemplating it and thinking about it. That I think more than anyone else from, if you're going to define like not rookies, but like a challenge or two. So everyone coming in that wasn't the vets or like a Pauly or a Fessel. I think she's number one on the list on the girl side, being like, you're getting a call the next time, whether it's going to be a future USA season or a future MTV season. I think she comes out the best.
And part of me wonders if she would to have been eliminated earlier, if she would have been similar to Michelle, getting that call and being physically able to do season 39.
I think it's quite possible, because from how we understand it, it was from, I don't know if it was from when Michelle got eliminated or from when she got home, but we know that it was a quick turnaround to 2 weeks, I believe, till she was back out on the plane and out there.
She got home to Jersey, went to a T-Swift concert, and then left again.
Yeah. And so you'd have to think that Michelle, yes, she made it all the way up to episode 12. There was still that last daily with the last eliminations and everything with the final. That's probably adding at least a week, and that's too quick of a turnaround. So I would like to think that, say, Michaela was taken out in that spot or taken out like one before, I think she's getting a call for 39.
Yeah, and especially because like I feel like if you make the final and don't win, and you're not a champion before season 39, I don't see how you would physically be able to start the season. Like you'll recover, but like there's certain things of just going through an entire season of the show that you need that additional time to sort of like rehab your body, get yourself back acclimated to like your normal life, your normal routines in order to get back into like challenge ready. Because like your challenge done at the end of a
Yeah.
season. Like
Yeah, and not only all the physical aspects, but also the mental aspects too of going back into a game like this, that it takes a toll on you mentally as well. So I'd have to imagine that you need that time as well for both that mental and physical. So it was just too quick of a turnaround that I don't think either she wasn't called or it had to have been, hey, I'd love to come back, but I need more than a week.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the next person, the last person to actually finish the final is Chanel, who I also think production did her dirty. She was the only person who uh didn't get a confessional at the end of the last six people.
Yes.
It just was another Desi confessional, which deserved. Desi's a queen. Um, I felt bad for Chanel. Like I felt like the edit was a little strange for her. Like they did give her time. Like they didn't just like purple her throughout the show. I felt like she held her own. She competed very well. She was a rookie and seemed to be down socially good. She wins an elimination. She was middle of the road during like the individual portion dailies. She was on strong teams when it was the team phase. Like I thought it was an impressive showing for Chanel, and I think she gets her redemption from feeling like she squandered her survivor opportunity.
Yeah, I was happy she got that, but I think of everyone that's left, Chanel's the biggest question mark for me of being like, I don't really know what to think of her moving forward. We saw that obviously she moved well socially in the makeup of that house. So kudos for her for that. But we saw her, yes, she had her elimination win against Cassidy, but outside of that, she wasn't doing all that well in a lot of the dailies. That I think if she were to come back for a second challenge season, I think she has one of the biggest variances for me of being like, you could say she's put in a house where she doesn't already have some alliances built in, like just not simply saying that she knew Michaela or Desi, but
Right.
hey, we're going to stay Survivor strong. Where so it's more of a mixture that you could tell me that, oh yeah, Chanel goes out within the first week or two, and I could believe it. You could say, hey, Chanel makes it all the way till the last elimination, and I could believe that too. I just don't know what to make of her, of what she could possibly be if she keeps coming back for future seasons.
I agree. I agree. There's definitely variance there, but I also think she's one of those newer players that's willing to do like the off season work, like not
Mm-hmm.
just the staying in like the ready shape, but doing the social work. Like I think I saw her at some of like the viewing parties earlier in the season. Like she's been doing Instagram lives like after the episode airs. I don't watch them because I don't watch the episodes until the next day because I will only watch on Paramount Plus. Now I will only watch on DVR when since we will be coming back for the Challenge 39 starting next week, we will not be covering episode 0 because one, didn't watch it, didn't record it, didn't need it. Is what it is. If there's
Same.
people I don't know, and I know there's people I don't know, I will figure it out. But we will still be doing our regular Friday time slot, and we'll make it known if we have changes in our schedules for that season. But yeah, so Chanel, I could see her being on the list to be called back for USA season 3. I don't know if there would be carryover from here to MTV, but I think firmly she would be on the list of like if they want to bring returnees back for season 3 of the CBS version, she's on that call list.
She's on that call list, and I think, and I didn't say it, but from my biggest answer before being the biggest variance, like I think someone like a Desi or Michaela, they could come back another season and totally flop, or they're targeted early, and I still think they keep getting calls. I think Chanel,
Yep.
if she were to be a staple moving forward, she needs another. I don't think she's done enough for that. I think she's done enough for a call back, but she needs another strong showing to be put on that list of, hey, we want you to keep being part of this moving
Yeah.
forward. Where if unfortunately she would flop, I think she kind of just gets pushed away.
Well, and so yeah, Michaela being the high society lady that she is, she should be wanting to be a challenge regular so that she can keep getting that paycheck, that appearance fee check, and then if she gets a win, that's some good money. That's some good food you get to put on your plate that isn't gas station food. Um, but I agree. I agree there. So we'll get to the next person who finished, and that's Bananas, who gets third for the guys. Obviously, not how he wanted to end the season. Um, doesn't get his eighth win. Doesn't get to break ahead of Tom Brady. Not yet. But how? So my conversation for you here is, it's sort of like the LeBron James story of it all. Like, would you rather get to the final and lose and like you worsen your finals record, or not get there at all? I
I
have an
think
answer, but
I think it's rather get there. That was the one, I may not be the biggest LeBron James fan in the world. Sorry, we'll take it away from basketball in a second here. But I respect of what he's done. And I don't think that being perfect in your finals record should be the be all end all if you're always able to get there. Because I think it says a lot to always be able to get to these finals. And so what? This is finals number 11, 12 for him. And so I
yeah, so
don't
he's like
think
7-4, 7-5. This is the
yeah,
first
so
time that he's lost back-to-back finals that he's been to.
yeah. So I don't think that it's any type of, black mark on his resume or whatever. My bigger question for Bananas is, we've seen that he's been able to adapt in more socially, which I think is needed, especially because he's not the physical prowess that he once was. But can Bananas win a finals again?
I fully believe he can. Like,
Okay.
like the only reason, or like the only legitimate reason that he loses in this one is it takes a couple more tries of him to do the axe throw, and he messed up the crucial risk station. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think there's any doubt that he could win one again. Like, I don't think age is an issue for him. Like, he keeps himself in great shape. He's a body and weight wise made for this style of final. It's
Mhm.
always gonna just be like, do these stations across the final impact him where he can't make it up with it? Because like Chanel got an ATV. He didn't. He
Mhm.
still beats her up the mountain overall. Obviously
Mhm.
there's discrepancy between like whatever you want to say about like the different genders and how they're made and whatever. But ultimately he still beats someone who got an advantage through the second station. Um and he's well rounded. He's good at stupid shit. And that's something that you're just not gonna suddenly not be good at.
No, I completely agree with all that. And I'm not saying that he can't. I just think that for the first time, it's becoming a bit of a conversation because he definitely has as good a shape as he in. He's lost a little bit of his step, which is completely understandable being 41 now or 40, 41, and keep coming back. That I just
Facing
think
against people
that
that are 30.
agreed, that I think it's a little bit more of an uphill climb for him from before, where 5 years ago, I think it was, you can't let Bananas get to the final because if he's in the
He
final,
wins.
he's definitely going to win. I just don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think it's that he can't win, but seeing him lose these two, and I'll put an asterisk on Ride or Die because that one sucked, but I just don't think that it's, hey, if Bananas gets there, he's definitely going to win the final. I think that
Mm.
time of his career is past.
And that's fair. Not everyone's ever going to be like that. Like, Darrell was that. We saw how
Oh,
Darrell's career ended up.
it's not a shot at him whatsoever. Like, it's still being
Oh,
the
I
shape
know.
that
I
he's
know.
in and putting himself in it. It's impressive. It's just, I think for him to win 8, things need to break a little bit better for him in the past rather than just show up and
For
he'll figure
sure. For
everything else
sure.
out.
For sure. Some luck needs to be in there more than before. Uh, but yeah, I will always be entertained with bananas on my screen. I don't care what the haters say on social media. He brings it for me. He's a good producer slash cast member, and hey, love to hate him. He's on House of Villains. Watch that.
Yeah. No, he's
So
great. I mean, he should be any season that he wants to be a part of. I think he's still one of the first calls that production makes.
mhm.
And
the
rightfully
next
so.
person, the next person up the mountain was the winner for the women, and that's Desi. A lot of our preseason picks for who would win this season, and as much as Michaela was getting that edit, it was like the back of my mind. I just kept saying like, Desi's just such a beast, and like she has the biggest chip on her shoulder because, in all sense and purposes, she probably does win season 1 of CBS or Challenge USA. Um, like we could be here calling her a 2-time champion, maybe even a 3-time champion, depending how things shook out if she ended up doing
World
the global
Championships.
championship exclusively on Paramount Plus. Um,
Of course.
but she gets her win, and good on her. She earned that shit. Great, well-rounded player, and she got it done. But the question now is, does she ever return to the challenge, or is this enough for her where she's like, I came back because I didn't win. I now won. I can move on.
I hope she keeps coming back. I don't know. I don't follow her closely enough to know what she has or hasn't said, as the season's been going on, or even in the past 24 hours, that it wouldn't surprise me if she just kind of said, hey, I did what I came here to accomplish to do. I'm kind of done with this chapter of my life. I hope that's not the case, but I guess time will tell.
Time will tell. That's really all there is to it. I would love to see Desi back. Obviously, I love her. Next up the mountain, runner up for the guys, making that comeback from being last place on day 1 is Corey. If anyone could have won this season or could have like made this season like this was their perfect season, you could have made a case it was Corey's. You go for the entire season, never truly ever being at risk of going into elimination, never touches the sand. I believe he gets a win or 2 along the way in the dailies, sets himself up well with all the strong women in the event that it was going to be paired finals. Has a very rough day 1, but does come back in day 2. Because he scales his food, he understood how to do the scales and get that ATV, and that ultimately gets him 2nd place. Was this the last true shot that Corey could win a final, or is this what we are now seeing as, if whenever Corey comes onto a season, this is the type of level of player he's going to be now?
Somewhere in between there. I, in past podcasts, have said that if Corey doesn't win this one, I don't think that he's ever going to win a final. I'm not ready to stand behind that entirely based upon what we saw here, because we kind of were thinking that there would be some pair formats like USA 1 and others in the past where they were going to pair up, maybe for a few different things on day 1 and it be all individual on day 2. I think I saw enough from Corey here that I'm not going to say he can't win. I just think it's an uphill battle. I think more importantly, showing what we've seen here is the fact that I think Corey's best chances moving forward as he keeps coming back is not working with the vets. I think we know that he's lower on the totem pole there. He obviously ingratiated himself great with all these people that he didn't know, that I think we saw a real strength in his social game. But I think if it's an MTV heavy cast, he's in trouble. If it's more balanced, I wouldn't bet on Corey winning, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
I will say I believe so, but I think part of that is his own doing due to how he gets into his own head about how the other vets view him, or more like the vets. Like, obviously people from his era he's cool with. Like, he can rock with Fessel. He can rock with, well, I would say Nelson, but I don't think we ever see Nelson on a challenge again. Unfortunately.
But he was working out with
wishes
Leroy yesterday, which was awesome to see.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, maybe Leroy comes back again. Let's get him out of retirement again.
Well, if we ever see All Stars 4, maybe.
Let's get him out of retirement a second time. He's like Brett Favre. All Stars 4 was his Jets season. He still needs his Viking seasons. You know?
And not to derail the conversation, I'm more worried. I thought for sure it was 50-50 if we saw Leroy again, but we were definitely going to see Cam. With Cam being pregnant a second time, I don't think that's for sure anymore.
That's not for sure anymore. But who's to say that would stop a strong woman from doing anything ever again? So I will never leave that door closed with Cam.
Absolutely not.
But I do bring up Leroy, though, because I think Corey now ties Leroy for the most finals from a guy without getting a win at 5.
And I think, unfortunately, they are very similar in a lot of ways.
They're very loyal. They're very loyal. When they're separated from their number ones, they can be a little more strategic and cutthroat when needed. They're both socially savvy. They both hold their own in eliminations, but both ultimately can't seal the deal at the end. It's very weird describing the two, but there are a lot of similarities.
So I'll put this to you in a, let's go back to a betting format. Okay. Corey, the rest of his challenge career, we're putting the over-under at half of a championship. So you're either betting he never wins or he gets one. You going over or under?
Well, it depends when he plays next. If Challenge 40 is supposed to be an all-winners season, as like everyone's alluding to, he won't get to play 40. He didn't play 39, so his best chance is either USA Season 3 or 41 as his next chance to like be on the show. So that's another year at a minimum. I think I'm going under.
I would too. As I said, I was
nothing against him.
Yeah, I was removing the fact of saying that he can't win, but I wouldn't bank on him getting a win.
I think like he can win. Like that. Like, let's be clear here.
Yeah.
Is if day one goes a different way, there's a total possibility we come in here talking about Corey breaking the seal. He got his challenge win after all this time. My bigger concern for him is like how much he wants to be a family dude. Not that he has a family. Have a family. Have your kids. Have a happy life. But when you have that and you have the teen mom money that's going to be rolling in, like at a certain point, is he going to be like, is it worth putting myself through this, being away from my kids, when I can just still be giving them the life that they want through this other means?
Well, who else is creeping up to Leroy and Corey's record of most finals appearances without a win?
Anissa. I know you're talking about Fessel, who's his third final where he's lost, and the second final of 3 where he leaves prior to the final actually finishing. Obviously, the first time, big part of that is because of Casey shattering her leg. But this time, misreading a sign cost him the chance to attempt at finishing the final.
He's only ever finished 4th.
Who in what world would we be living in where we are calling Devin Walker a champion and not Fessel? Because I sort of agree with Fessel where like Fessel has all the tools to be a challenge champion, but for whatever reason, something happens in these finals where he just the first one you can make the case of he just was not prepared for what a final was, and it was in
The
heavy
altitude.
snow, weather, and bad altitude. You can give him to that because we've seen CT struggle in that type of final as well. That Bananas beats him in, and was that
X's one.
X's? X's
X's
one.
one.
Well, yeah, because CT ran with DM, of course. Yeah. The other two, though, it's like you can't like. There's not much he could have done as soon as Casey broke her leg. Like, obviously, he could have been a better sport about it, but nothing you can do there. This one's like a little more egregious because it's like there was a literal sign there and you still chose the wrong path. But like he gets there, Corey doesn't get to do the scales. Corey's out. Like maybe Fessel gets second, maybe he gets first. Like no matter what, he would have improved his best challenge placement by default. It's interesting. It's interesting.
And I'd agree because the last thing that he does say before he goes is I will win this game. He's someone that if I would bet does win a challenge at some point, but I think I don't think it's quite yet, but I think if he has one more kind of a final doesn't go his way for something that's not like the Casey situation, but more on a mistake of his part, where that conversation starts of being like, will he ever be able to fully put it together? I still think he has one more final before that comes up. But I think once you do that, you enter, for better or for worse, the Corey conversation of being like, will they ever be able to put it together and actually win one?
There's just a part of me that's just like has more confidence in him of being able to put it together than Corey. I also think that Fessel getting to the final is why we don't see him on season 39, because I think he still meets that threshold of like amount of time playing where he could have been on this season coming up, but because of where it finished, I don't think he was like physically able to get back home, and then go like on location.
Agreed.
Because that part was like my biggest question mark when the season 39 cast was leaked. I was like, battle for a new champion. Like this is made for Fessel, unless like Fessel either did not have the time to go or he said no because he's like, this isn't the type of final I want to win.
Yeah.
Like in his mind, he's like, you think I'm that bad that I have to get my win against a bunch of scrubs? His words.
I should be there on 40. I'm the people's champion.
He is the people's champion. Maybe he'll be a slam ball champion before.
He could. Haven't heard much about slam ball lately.
It's over under 1/2 of slam ball championships before challenge championships.
I may be a degenerate gambler. I've never betted on slam ball and never will. All right, we're just going to throw that out there.
Okay, that's fine. So let's conclude this with talking about the person who finishes first overall, first for the men, Chris Underwood, Survivor winner, Sole Survivor, and Challenge champion. 2 for 2 in his reality TV career.
2 for 2. He's the only Survivor. Now, I guess it's just him and Michelle. No, well, never mind. Now that I'm thinking, I guess the only male Survivor champion that's won both, but because Danny didn't,
and Michelle hasn't won.
Michelle hasn't won, but you could say, well, Sarah, she won and did it. So that's where I ended up stopping. But no, it was
you forget about Turbo.
That's right, and he won Survivor Turkey twice.
Survivor Turkey, Sole Survivor, and overall Survivor Challenge champion.
I blacked Turbo out of my mind. I guess that makes me a pussy chicken. So that's
a 2-time pussy chicken.
Two-time pussy chicken. Yeah, so that's my fault, Turbo. But Chris, no, this was incredibly impressive. Everything that he did this season. From winning 4 eliminations. I think it put out that it was Sarah Grayson's the only one who won 5 and ended up winning, but it's him, Sarah, and Laurel are the only ones that have gone on into 4 eliminations and then won the final. So it's an incredibly impressive season for him. You saw just in, even before, like obviously we said the ATV is essentially what sealed it for him. But even you saw starting a minute behind, he's still able to pass Bananas, has a good lead on him going into right after that second checkpoint, that it's incredibly, yeah, I just can't say enough about it. It's impressive. Winning the 4 eliminations, winning those last 2 dailies when he really needed it to put himself in this position. It was one of the best seasons from a rookie challenger in quite some time.
It's the ending of the second half through the final is almost written as if a jury of his peers were on an island with him and told him these were the exact things that he needed to do in order to win the game. It's like, it's so weird how you could put this all together of like, okay, you screwed yourself. You're now like the pariah of the house. You have to win 3 eliminations, 2 dailies, be okay and day 1 of the final in order to win day 2 of the final and get this money.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I was reading the newest comment that came up, and I'll just simply say I don't agree.
About season 1 not counting.
No, USA, it's sorry. There was a chat in the comments saying USA seasons don't count as champions. I think that's bullshit. Because
I think he meant I think he means season 1 because he said there was no past challengers and this season did have past challengers on it.
Okay, all right, then that's fair. Maybe
you can make a case there. You can make a case. I don't think Danny is losing sleep at night if you're saying that he is an official challenge champion.
That's very true.
He might tweet some shade at you though.
Oh, Kiki definitely will.
No. Kiki is a forever champion. Just at life. Yeah. I miss the Kiki tweets, honestly. That's the one downside of season 2 of Challenge USA. There was not enough Kiki McRae.
I miss the Kiki tweets. Hell, I miss Kiki from the Challenge Australia. So I'm just
why isn't
everything Kiki.
Oh, she is
I'm
a
all
champion.
for it.
I was about to say, why isn't she on season 39 instead of who we got? But that does wrap up season 2, Challenge USA. Big improvement. Even despite the one glaring hole of the balance risk station in the final, I loved this season. I had a lot of fun covering it. Adding challengers from MTV was a huge benefit to help break open the game. You had people from the main shows that were ready to actually play the challenge and not play whatever season 1 was. So I think I leave this feeling really a lot better about the CBS version of the show as a whole. Do I wish we had music? Yes. Do I wish we didn't have really stupid American themed titles to the episodes, except for the ones where they just gave up on? Yes. But not that many downs and a lot more highs for this.
I think it's a very good sign because we're thinking that, okay, we're going to start seeing more on this on CBS or at least Paramount Plus. And I think it's a huge win, especially coming off USA season 1 and then Ride or Dies. It was a bit of a challenge slog. And now everything that this season has brought, hopefully taking us into another good season. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. Yeah, I was a little down on a few parts of the challenge. Yeah. I was a little down on a few parts of the finals, but that's just on this particular episode. No challenge season, especially in recent memory, has been perfect. But of all the challenge seasons within the past few years, I think it's up there of one of the better ones. So I'm completely happy with how the season went. And it just gives me even more hope for how it's going to keep moving forward, especially on CBS.
Right, because we all know. We think it's a ticking clock at this point for MTV and how long it's there. You have to make more room for 3 more episodes of ridiculousness. It's going to be RTV very soon, not MTV.
Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe.
So we're very excited to get into season 39. The cast is having like so much drama online even before the season starts. So we should be inclined to see some very good episodes. Will it overstay its welcome? Yeah, probably. It's the MTV version. But we will be there to enjoy that ride. As always, we will be here on Fridays for challenge coverage. We'll be here on Wednesdays after the Survivor episode to cover Survivor. And when we're able to throughout the weekend, we will get podcasts out for House of Villains. When Jonny is able to be at home, he'll have his Talk Villain to Me podcast where he'll try to have people from the season with him to go over the episodes and what went on. And then Matt and a bunch of us will have a podcast as well going through the episodes. And we hope that you love this show because it's entertaining as hell for 2 episodes.
Yeah, can't say enough about it. If you love reality TV, especially what reality TV used to be, check out House of Villains. You're only 2 episodes behind. And then I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. Do you want to see Jonny Fairplay out at viewing parties? Well, he's doing viewing parties all across the country for both Survivor and House of Villains. I think for the next 6-7 weeks, he's going straight pretty much all the way up until Thanksgiving. So you can get tickets for that at survivortix.com. That's survivortix.com or villaintix.com. Both of those will take you to the same website, and you can buy tickets for his upcoming viewing parties. I know I don't know all the dates, but Clearwater's next week. Then Charlotte, he's going to be in Miami, Cincinnati, and Chicago. I think even back down in Orlando, right around Hearts of Reality. So he's going to be all over the place. So make sure you check that out if you're in the area and go out and support him. It is such a great time. I know Alex and I, we appreciate all the support that we get from you guys. If you're watching, make sure to, hit the little thumbs up and subscribe, or then rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere else. And then the best way to support the podcast is to become a patron at realitypatron.com. That gets you access to our secret Facebook group. It gets you access to Matt and Jonny are currently covering Australian Survivor, Brains versus Brawn. They're a little over halfway through the season. And then their favorite podcast they do each week, which is the Q&A. And if you want even more about House of Villains, Jonny tells you a lot of stories that he cannot say on the free side. So that's realitypatron.com. Sign up for a month. If you don't like it, Jonny will send your money back.
Yeah, and with that, you can find me on my social media platforms at Trias95. You can find Dan on Montchal4 on his social medias as well. This has been the Challenge USA Season 2. We'll be back for MTV's The Challenge Season 39, a battle for a new champion, next week on Friday. We love all you. We'll see you next time. We're out.